My name is Monica Fisher. I'm 34 years old, a marketing manager in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Last week, my brother texted me, "Come to the restaurant tonight. I'll throw a party for you." Completely unexpected. No call, no details, just that. I hadn't planned anything for my promotion, so I thought, maybe this is their way of showing care for once. I put on a nice dress, drove to an upscale Italian restaurant downtown, soft lights and clinking glasses. The host handed me a paper wristband, bright orange like the kind you get at a county fair. I glanced at it. Guest pass, drinks only. My stomach tightened. My mom leaned close, her voice low. "It's just drinks for you, hun. Budget's tight." My brother smirked, passing a plate of bruschetta to my sister. I forced a smile, nodded, and walked to the bar. The bartender raised an eyebrow when I asked for the menu. I skimmed through, stopped at the lobster platter, $500 for the table. I ordered it, told him to put it on their tab, and sipped my cocktail like nothing happened. Half an hour later, my brother's voice cut over the noise. "Who ordered the $500 lobster?" Everyone froze, staring at each other. I just sipped my drink, watching the chaos unfold. Want to know how this family drama explodes? Hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for the full story. That night stayed with me. I built my career from the ground up, climbing from entry-level jobs to running campaigns for tech startups. But my family, they're in Eugene, 2 hours south, and they've never seen me as anything more than a checkbook. Growing up, it was always about my brother and sister. My brother got brand new sneakers for basketball tryouts while I wore hand-me-downs. My sister got a car for her 16th birthday. I got a bus pass. My parents would light up when they talked about their dreams, his trophies, her art classes. Me, I was the quiet one with good grades, so nobody paid much attention. That pattern never stopped. When I landed my first real job, things shifted. Suddenly, I was the one they called. At first, it was small, $50 for gas, $100 for groceries. I didn't mind. That's what family does, I told myself. But it grew. My brother needed $3,000 to cover a gambling debt. I wired it without question. My sister asked for $1,500 to fix her car. I sent it. Then my parents' utility bills started showing up in my inbox, $200 here, $300 there. I paid them all. No thank yous. No how are you. Just the expectation that I'd keep paying. 5 years ago, it got worse. My brother lost his part-time bar job. Instead of looking for work, he leaned on me. Just this month, he'd say, smooth as ever. $2,000 for rent. Another $1,000 for his phone bill. My sister wasn't much better. She'd call with that syrupy tone, asking for cash to cover her credit cards. $4,000 one year, $2,500 the next. I kept saying yes, hoping maybe they'd see me as more than a wallet. They never did. My parents weren't different. During the pandemic, their grocery deliveries went on my card, $500 a month every month for 2 years. When the water heater broke, I covered $1,200 for a new one. My dad would mumble something about paying me back, but he never did. My mom would send long texts about how family sticks together, but she never once asked how I was holding up. Holidays in Eugene were always the same. I'd sit there listening to stories about my brother's latest scheme or my sister's art projects and leave feeling invisible. The worst part, I let it happen. I kept hoping they'd change, that they'd see me as me, not just the one who pays. My younger sister was the only one who seemed to care. She'd call sometimes just to talk, not to ask for money. But even she started slipping. Last year, she needed $500 for textbooks. I sent it, no hesitation. Then $300 more for school stuff. I sent that too. It never stopped. Looking back, it's clear as day. They didn't love me, they loved what I could do for them. Every yes I gave was another step deeper into their trap. I told myself it was temporary, that they'd get on their feet. But they never did. They just kept taking, and I kept giving like a fool who believed family meant sacrifice. That dinner, that stupid paper wristband, it wasn't just a bad night. It was a wake-up call. I wasn't their sister or daughter anymore. I was their ATM, and I'd been one for far too long. By the time I was 30, I was a marketing manager for a tech startup in Portland. Long hours, big projects, decent pay. I was proud of it. I called home hoping to share the news. Got a promotion, I said to my mom, Patricia, expecting a congratulations. She hummed, then shifted. Your brother's struggling again. Can you help every time? My dad, Richard, wasn't any better. He listened quietly, then mentioned their mortgage was late. $500 here, 1,000 there. I sent it thinking it would give me a place in the family. But it didn't. My brother Brandon was the worst. He called late at night, voice casual like we were friends. Hey Caitlin, I'm in a bind. Owe some guys a few grand. Gambling debts again. 3,000 one time, 4,000 another. I transferred the money hoping he would change, but he never did. My sister Lindsay wasn't much different. She texted smiling about needing a new car for work. Just 2,000 Caitlin, I'll pay you back. I sent it. She didn't. They talked about their lives. His side hustles, her design projects, and I waited for them to ask about mine. They never did. I started keeping score. Every bonus I earned, every late night at the office, I thought maybe this will be the year they notice. I drove to Eugene for family dinners, shared stories about my campaigns, the clients I landed. My mom nodded, then asked about my brother's latest plan to get back on his feet. My dad sipped coffee, muttering about bills. Lindsay showed off her new portfolio, never once asking about my work. Even my younger sister Kelsey, who once stood by me, began to fade. She still called to chat, but it always ended with a request: 400 for rent, 600 for a laptop. I paid thinking it would keep us close, but it didn't. Last year, I hit a milestone. Landed a big client, got a raise, bought a condo in Portland. I was thrilled. I called home thinking this time they would care. I told my mom about the deal, how I worked months to close it. She paused, then said, That's nice, hon. Can you send 1,000 for your dad's car repair? My heart sank. I still sent the money, but something shifted. I started seeing it. Their calls, their texts weren't about family. They were about what I could give them. I tried one last time. At Christmas, I drove down, brought gifts, shared my newest project, a campaign that went viral. I thought they would be proud. Instead, Brandon pulled me aside. I need 5,000, Caitlin. Big opportunity, I swear. Lindsay joined in, asking for 1,500 for a work trip. My parents just watched like it was normal. Kelsey stayed quiet, but I saw her look away. That was when it hit me. They would never change. They didn't see success work. Or me. They saw dollar signs. I spent years chasing their approval, building a career I thought would make them proud. But it was never about me. It was always about what I could give them. I should have seen it from the start. After all those years of their demands, I still allowed myself to hope. When Brandon texted, Come to the restaurant tonight, I'll throw a party for you, I thought maybe this time they truly meant it. I put on my favorite black dress, drove from Portland to an upscale Italian restaurant in Eugene. Inside, the place was buzzing, crisp white tablecloths, wine glasses, gleaming waiters weaving through the tables. I spotted my family in a corner booth, laughing, plates stacked with appetizers. Brandon waved me over, smiling wide. My mom, Patricia, stood up to hug me, her perfume sharp. My dad, Richard, gave a curt nod. Lindsay barely lifted her eyes from her phone. Kelsey, my youngest sister, gave a small wave, her gaze unreadable. The hostess handed me a neon green paper wristband, flimsy like a cheap festival ticket. Printed on it, guest pass, drinks only. My chest tightened. I turned to Patricia for an explanation. Oh, honey, she cooed. Syrupy sweet, we're on a tight budget. You get drinks and apps, okay? Brandon chuckled, passing a basket of breadsticks to Lindsay. Richard sipped his wine, avoiding my eyes. Kelsey shifted silently in her seat. I stood there, wristband dangling, feeling like I'd just been slapped. A party for me. This was their idea of celebrating. I had driven 2 hours just for the kids' table. I forced a smile. Sure, Mom, I said, heading for the bar. My hands trembled as I gripped the menu. I wasn't here to sip water and chew on bread. I scanned the list: pasta seafood specials. Then I saw it: lobster platter, $500, serve 6. Perfect. I caught the bartender's eye, a man with a neatly trimmed beard who looked like he'd seen it all. Put the lobster platter on that table's tab, I said, nodding toward my family. He raised an eyebrow, then nodded. Anything else? A gin and tonic? I replied, leaning back watching the room. Minutes later, the waiter set down a massive spread: lobster tails, glistening butter dripping, parsley sprinkled on top. My family's laughter died instantly. Brandon's fork froze midair. Lindsay's eyes widened, her phone forgotten. Patricia gasped. What is this? Richard just stared. Kelsey turned pale, glancing at me. I sipped my drink, calm as ever. Thought we'd splurge for my party? I said. Brandon's voice cracked. Caitlin, who ordered a $500 lobster platter. The table fell silent, every eye on me. I shrugged. You said it's my party, right? Enjoy. I stood, grabbed my purse, and walked to the exit. Patricia called after me. Caitlin, wait. Lindsay muttered something sharp under her breath. Richard stayed silent as always. Kelsey half rose, but Brandon yanked her back, his face flushed red. I didn't look back. The bartender gave me a knowing nod as I passed, like he understood exactly what I'd done. Outside, the cool Eugene air hit my face, and I felt lighter than I had in years. That paper wristband wasn't just an insult, it was the last straw. I'd let them treat me like a doormat for far too long. Not anymore. I started my car, pulled onto the road back to Portland, leaving behind a $500 lobster bill to scorch their so-called celebration. They wanted a party, I gave them one they'd never forget. P5, they didn't let it go. 3 days after I left that restaurant, my doorbell rang. I was in my Portland condo, unwinding after a long day, when I saw them through the peephole, my entire family standing on my doorstep. Brandon was in front, arms crossed, face tight. Lindsay was next to him, tapping her foot. Patricia clutched her purse, lips pursed. Richard stood back, hands in his pockets. Kelsey lingered behind, eyes on the ground. I took a deep breath and opened the door. This wasn't going to be pleasant. Brandon didn't waste a second. Caitlin, what were you thinking? $1,200 for lobster and drinks. Are you out of your mind? His voice was sharp, echoing in my hallway. Lindsay jumped in, waving her phone. The restaurant sent the bill to me. You stuck us with that? Patricia stepped forward, her tone softer but pointed. Han, we can't afford that. You know we're stretched thin. Richard just nodded like he always did. Kelsey stayed quiet, glancing between us. I leaned against the doorframe, arms folded. You invited me to a party. I just ordered what I thought we were all sharing. Brandon scoffed. A party. It was a family dinner, Caitlin. You don't get to pull stunts like that. Lindsay's eyes narrowed. You're so selfish, always showing off with your fancy job. I felt my jaw tighten. Selfish. After everything I'd done for them, I stepped inside, motioning them in. They filed into my living room, Patricia eyeing my furniture like she was pricing it. I didn't offer them a seat. Let's talk about selfish, I said, voice steady. Brandon, $3,000 for your gambling debt in 2018. $4,000 more last year. Never paid back a cent. His face went red, but he didn't speak. I turned to Lindsay. Your car, Lindsay. $2,000 for the down payment, $1,500 for repairs. Nothing in return. She opened her mouth, then closed it. I looked at Patricia and Richard. Your groceries, utilities, water heater, $500 a month for 2 years, $1,200 for the heater. I paid it all. Did you ever say thank you? The room was silent. Patricia's eyes welled up, but I wasn't buying it. We're family, Caitlin, she said, voice trembling. Family helps each other. I shook my head. No, Mom. I helped. You took? There's a difference. Richard cleared his throat. We didn't mean it like that, he mumbled. I laughed, sharp and bitter. Didn't mean it. You put a wristband on me at my own party. You didn't even let me eat. Kelsey finally spoke, her voice small. Caitlin, maybe we can work this out. We didn't mean to hurt you. She stepped forward, but Brandon cut her off. Don't defend her, Kelsey. She's the one who screwed us over. Lindsay nodded, glaring. You owe us for that bill, Caitlin. Patricia reached for my hand. Let's just talk, hon. We can figure this out. I pulled away. Kelsey's eyes pleaded, but I saw Brandon's hand on her shoulder squeezing. She was trying, but they wouldn't let her. I straightened up, looking at each of them. I'm done. No more money. No more bailing you out. I've given you tens of thousands over the years, and all I got was a paper wristband and complaints. I'm not your bank anymore. Brandon's jaw dropped. You're cutting us off just like that. Lindsay's voice rose. You think you're better than us, don't you? Patricia started crying, loud and dramatic. Richard just stared at the floor. Kelsey looked like she wanted to say something, but she didn't. I walked to the door and opened it. Get out. All of you. Brandon pointed at me, his voice low. This isn't over, Caitlin. Lindsay grabbed her purse, muttering about my ego. Patricia wiped her eyes, whispering, You're breaking my heart. Richard shuffled out, silent. Kelsey hesitated, her mouth opening, but Brandon pulled her along. As they left, I heard Lindsay hiss, She'll regret this. I closed the door, locked it, and leaned against it. My heart was pounding, but I felt free. For the first time, I'd said no. And I meant it. 6. I thought it was over. A week after I kicked my family out of my condo, an email from Patricia popped up in my inbox. I was at my desk in Portland, sipping coffee, trying to focus on a new campaign. The subject line read, We need to talk. My stomach churned, but I opened it. Her words were sharp, no trace of the soft tone she used in person. She wrote about family loyalty, how I'd betrayed them with that restaurant bill. Then came the bombshell, I know about your investment property in Beaverton. You're sitting on all that money while we struggle. Sell it, Caitlin. Help your family. I froze. How did she even know I'd bought that condo 2 years ago, a quiet investment to rent out, never mentioned it to them? I was still processing when my phone rang. It was Brandon. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Caitlin, he said, voice low. Mom's right. You've got that place in Beaverton. Sell it. We need the cash. I gripped the phone, my knuckles white. How do you know about that? I asked. He hesitated, then let it slip. I saw it. Back when we had that joint account for college expenses. I borrowed some money from it. Not much, just a couple grand. My blood ran cold. That account was from years ago, set up for emergencies. I'd closed it when I noticed funds missing, never suspecting him. You stole from me? I said, my voice shaking. He laughed, nervous. Borrowed, Caitlin. I was going to pay it back. I hung up, my heart racing. I pulled up the email again, rereading Patricia's words. She didn't just know about the condo she was demanding I liquidate it for them. For their bills, their debts, their lives. I thought about all I'd given: $3,000 for Brandon's gambling, $2,000 for Lindsay's car, $1,200 for my parents' water heater. And now this. They weren't just asking for help. They were trying to take what I'd built. I printed the email, the paper crisp in my hands. I carried it to my balcony, grabbed a lighter from a drawer, and stood there staring at her words. The condo wasn't just an investment, it was my safety net, my future, something I'd earned through years of late nights and hard work. They had no right to it. I flicked the lighter, watched the flame catch the paper's edge. It curled, blackened, turned to ash. I wasn't burning an email, I was burning their hold over me. I'd let them guilt me for too long, let them think my life was theirs to claim. Back inside, I sat at my laptop and checked my accounts. The Beaverton condo was in my name, untouchable. I called my lawyer, a guy I'd met through work, and asked about protecting my assets. You're smart to act now, he said. Get a trust, lock it down. I spent the afternoon researching, making calls, setting up barriers they couldn't cross. By evening, I'd started the process to transfer the condo into a trust. No one, not Patricia, not Brandon, could touch it. I thought about calling Lindsay, Richard, or Kelsey, but stopped myself. Lindsay would just side with them like always. Richard would stay silent as usual. Kelsey might listen, but she'd been at that confrontation too quiet to make a difference. Brandon's confession kept replaying in my head. He'd stolen from me, and they all knew about my condo. Had they been digging into my life, waiting for something big to take? I felt sick, betrayed in a way I hadn't expected. I looked out at the Portland skyline, the lights flickering against the dusk. That condo, my savings, my career, they were mine. I'd built them without their help despite their demands. For the first time, I saw it clearly. My family wasn't just ungrateful, they were predators. And I was done being prey. I'd protect what was mine no matter what they tried next. They kept pushing. 2 weeks after I burned that email, my phone buzzed with notifications from a family group chat I'd muted years ago. I was in my Portland condo finalizing a campaign pitch when I glanced at the screen. Messages from Patricia, Brandon, and Lindsay flooded in. "Caitlin, you're tearing this family apart," my mom wrote. Selfish Lindsay typed with a string of angry emojis. Brandon was blunt. "You owe us for what you did." I scrolled through, my stomach twisting. Richard was silent as always, but his absence spoke volumes. Kelsey hadn't texted, but I wasn't surprised. She'd been quiet since the confrontation at my place. Then I saw it, a public post on social media from Lindsay's account. "Some people think they're too good for family," it read, with a photo of us from years ago, me smiling awkwardly at a holiday dinner. The comments were worse. Patricia's friends calling me ungrateful, Brandon's buddies piling on with spoiled brat. Strangers chimed in, assuming I'd abandoned my family. I stared at the screen, my hands trembling. They weren't just mad, they were trying to shame me into giving in. I closed the app, refusing to engage. Let them talk. I wasn't playing their game anymore. The next day, I got an email from my bank about an old joint savings account, one I'd forgotten about, opened with Brandon and Lindsay back when we were in our 20s, pooling money for family emergencies. A notification flagged a withdrawal attempt. Someone had tried to pull out the remaining $500. I knew it was Brandon. His confession about stealing from our college account still stung, and now he was at it again. I called the bank, my voice calm but firm. "Close it," I said. "Remove my name from everything." The agent asked if I was sure. "Absolutely," I replied. By the end of the call, the account was gone, another tie severed. It felt like cutting a chain. That evening, my phone rang. It was Kelsey. I hesitated, then answered, hoping she'd be different. Her voice was soft, almost nervous. "Caitlin, I need help. My car payment's due and I'm short. Just $600. Please." I closed my eyes, picturing her at that restaurant, silent while they handed me that wristband. She'd tried to speak up at my condo, but it wasn't enough. "Kelsey," I said, keeping my tone steady, "I can't. I'm not your bank. You need to figure this out." She paused, then whispered, "But we're family." I shook my head, though she couldn't see. "Family doesn't treat me like a cash machine. I'm done." She started to protest, but I cut her off. "I've set boundaries, Kelsey. Respect them." I hung up, my heart heavy but resolute. I'd always had a soft spot for her, the only one who ever seemed to care, but even she was falling into their pattern. I opened my laptop, checked my social media, and saw more posts. Patricia sharing a sob story about losing a daughter, Brandon commenting about my fancy condo. I didn't respond. Instead, I blocked them all. Patricia, Brandon, Lindsay, even Richard. I kept Kelsey unblocked, but I wasn't holding my breath for her to change. I leaned back on my couch, staring at the Portland skyline through my window. The group chat, the posts, Kelsey's call, it was all a desperate attempt to pull me back into their web. But I was free now, and I wasn't going back. I'd spent years giving them everything: money, time, hope, only to be called selfish. No more. My condo, my savings, my life, they were mine. I'd built them without their help, and I'd protect them with everything I had. For the first time, I felt the weight of their expectations lift, replaced by something new: peace. Life moved on. Months after I blocked their messages and shut down that old joint account, I settled into a new rhythm in Portland. I'd moved to a smaller condo downtown closer to my office, with floor-to-ceiling windows that let in the morning light. My days were filled with work-leading campaigns, mentoring new hires, and evenings spent with friends who didn't ask for anything but my company. For the first time in years, I felt unburdened, like I could breathe without someone waiting to take something from me. I didn't hear from my family directly, but news trickled in through mutual contacts. Brandon had lost his job at the car dealership, fired for missing too many shifts. Word was he'd been showing up late, distracted, probably still chasing his gambling fixes. Lindsay wasn't faring much better. A former client had sued her for unpaid design work, and she was drowning in legal fees. Patricia and Richard were struggling too, their savings drained by medical bills and a leaky roof they couldn't afford to fix. Part of me felt a pang of guilt, but it faded quickly. I'd spent years bailing them out, and it never changed a thing. They'd made their choices. Kelsey was different. She reached out one afternoon, a text simple and hesitant. "Can we talk?" I met her at a coffee shop near my place, a quiet spot with exposed brick walls and the smell of roasted beans. She looked tired, her hair pulled back, no trace of the nervous energy from our last call. "I'm not here to ask for anything," she said, stirring her latte. "I just wanted to say I get it. Why you pulled away?" I nodded, waiting. She told me she'd moved out of our parents' house, taken a second job to cover rent. "I saw how they treated you," she said, her voice low. "I should have spoken up sooner." I believed her. She didn't apologize for them, didn't make excuses. She just sat there, respecting the line I'd drawn. It was enough. I thought about my family often, not with anger anymore, but with clarity. Their problems weren't mine to fix. Brandon's recklessness, Lindsay's debts, my parents' financial mess. They'd leaned on me for so long, expecting me to carry their weight. I'd let them, hoping for love, for respect, for something that never came. That night at the restaurant, the wristband, the lobster platter, it wasn't just about money. It was about me saying enough. Every step since kicking them out, burning that email, blocking their messages, was me building a wall to protect what I'd earned. My condo, my career, my peace. They were mine, not theirs to claim. Looking back, I realized the real cost wasn't the thousands I'd given them. It was the years I spent chasing their approval, letting their needs define me. I'd been so afraid of losing them that I'd almost lost myself. Setting boundaries wasn't easy. It hurt. It still does sometimes. But it was the only way to break free. To anyone out there stuck in a cycle like I was, here's what I learned. Family doesn't get a free pass to manipulate you. You're allowed to say no to protect your own life. It's not selfish, it's survival. And sometimes it's the only way to find peace.